Hey gang, Alan here, putting the finishing touches on Foliage Render Deluxe Shader. Wanted to go over some of the features that folks have asked questions about based on some of the other previews I've been posting, and clarify how to do some stuff that's already in Foliage Render. So first things first, one of the questions that has come up recently is like, can I tint part of my world fall colors and the other part of my world spring colors? And the answer is yes. I don't know. Why does this not want to fly around? Oh, it does. It's just really slow for some reason. Unity, why are you like this? All right, so over here you can see we got nice, lush green trees. And over here, oh, we'll crawl slowly back over to where our fall colors were. I'm holding down shift and everything. Pedal faster. Everybody lean forward. Try to use your momentum. I don't know what the deal is there. You get the idea. Over here, fall colors. And you're like, how is that possible? So you can already do this in Foliage Render. That's the important thing. So if you're using Foliage Render, and this is a version of the example scene that will be included in a package that does include Foliage Render. Remember, the Deluxe Shader just works with whatever. It doesn't care if you're using Foliage Render or not. It is fully compatible with Foliage Render. But you can use it on any prefab drawn any way, any in combination with other assets, whatever you want to do. And all the material manager stuff to make use of the packing configurations is free. So you ought to be set. There's no reason for you to be blowing so many samples and like not having good looking terrain on mobile and all that stuff. Okay. So back on topic here. How do we get our fall and our spring colors going? Right here in your terrain foliage provider, you can leave albedo map generation turned off, but add an entry here for extra texture and data configs, pipe in the bog standard neighbor property config. You make that by going to foliage render terrain neighbor property config data, and all these values are already there, so you don't have to reverse engineer that. That's already ready to go. Plug that in, and then put any texture you want in here, and then this will get piped to your shaders, the material property blocks for all the things you're drawing, blah 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 blah, as your um, albedo map, right? So that's that. Very cool. So you can see I've got it applying to a bunch of different stuff. And if we look here at the grass, I'll go through all the shader features, but we can look at the grass real quick. If we go to textures and main settings down here under terrain albedo, you've got the option to do normal or none, no terrain albedo application at all. You can tint, which just applies over the entire model, and then you could do a height, which only applies on the bottom little piece of the model, which is cool. That'll help you with blending grass with the ground texture or the bottoms of rocks or trees or whatever. Now in the foliage render lit shader, the simple one that's included with foliage render, tint is always a multiply, height is always a lerp, and that's it. You have no other options. But in the deluxe shader, I'm going to give you blend mode choices, so you can multiply, you could overlay, you could add, or you could lerp. So sort of depending on the style of your content, how you've got it set up, what you're trying to achieve with these overlays, you can sort of get your different looks. So there's that. And real quick, we'll just go through the whole list here again. Got our tag settings, because folks have asked questions about stuff that's like either already in the foliage renderer ecosystem, including some of the shader stuff, or stuff that I've covered in other videos, but we'll just do a big recap. And then we'll look at where the frost stuff is at. The only thing really left to do, we'll talk about that at the end. This video is going to be long enough. Okay, So cull settings or tag settings, we got cull, Z-right, Z-test, double-sided normal, mirror flip, blah, blah, blah. Vertex settings, you can scale stuff down when it gets far away. You can align the mesh to the terrain shape, so this will help with things hugging the height map, which is great. Got your vertex wind, and you can see I've cranked the wind up. And this is the same wind that's included in FR currently. It's the vertex wind out of Better Shaders, but I've added a little bit more height blending control so you can prevent the bottom edges of things being wiggly if you want. So that's in there. And then you've got perspective bending. So I know I showed this off in another video. When you look down at stuff, it'll fold in slightly. That's on my list to double check that it works nice with vertex wind. And then you've got interactable support. Remember, our spheres are interactable, so they push this stuff as they roll around. That is also on my list to finish up. Mesh normal settings, we've looked at these before. You can do standard normals, which is just whatever the model has. Brush normals, which sort of blend from their whatever their default normal is to like up, but 45, like 50%. They blend from whatever they're at halfway towards up. And then sphere, this will give them spherized normals, really great for stylized assets and for certain types of shrubs. And then up, which is what we want for grass. We just want this stuff to point up. That always looks better. Where are we at? Alpha settings. So you can cut, you can dither fade, you can do none, right? You can slide this slider around to get your alpha threshold where you like it. You got near camera fade, far camera fade, fade out glancing edges. That is nice for cards like grass, but this texture on these holds up pretty good, so I don't have it turned on at the moment. And the near camera fade you can see in some of the other videos is like the camera gets close to some of the tree trunks, they sort of dissolve out of the way, which is cool. Got your PBR settings, metalness, smoothiness, occlusioniness for how much ambient light you want to have show up. Textures and main settings here, we've got a bunch of different sample modes. We've got ultralight, which is the one sample, uber efficient data packed format. Standard, which is like a regular albedo and a regular normal map. Standard packed, which packs more PBR information into those two texture samples. Standard smooth, which packs smoothness into one of the extra channels. AO into one of the extra channels. And then standard transmission if you really care about subsurface. That's the one you want to go with. And then expensive, which is 3 samples, more the normal Unity paradigm. This is basically what you're doing if you're using anybody else's shader setup. You're doing 3+ samples, which is not awesome. That's not awesome. It's more memory all the time because you got more textures, and it's taking longer to draw these things because texture samples are expensive, right? So the worst case scenario in this shader is standard operating procedure for everything you're used to, which drives me crazy. But I'm a paranoid maniac when it comes to performance. So there you go. So I've got this grass currently on ultralight. You can change your tint colors, blah, 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 blah. You can control the normal strength, all the stuff you know and love. We've got overlay colors. So this is just doing a color and it's doing a replace. So it's got off, we can do 2D noise, which is perfect for grass, right? Because it's in 2D space projected down. 3D, which is on the tree leaves, the tree branches, to give them some more variety amongst the branches. Height, so you can do a fade across the height of the thing, and then inverted height, which is just the other way around. And then you can do a color or you can do a sample, and then you've got mole, add, overlay, or replace. Very nice. So, and gives you a nice little handy explanation. So it'll lerp to that brown color, cool. You can do an emission if you need the grass to be emissive, RGB or mask. And then you've got your terrain blend with its different modes, which we talked about earlier when we looked at the terrain setup with the foliage provider to pipe in this arbitrary texture. Cool. Wetness is here. We can turn on wetness. We can turn up the intensity so our grass is going to get all wet, right? Like similar to the frost, this is a great one to control with your material collection palettes, like we looked at in our other frost video. You can set the tint color. So if you want stuff to look darker when it's wet, you make this color darker. Even darker, but it's so shiny, it's hard to tell. There you go. You got metallic. You can override the normal when it gets wet, right? So things will have less bump map, right? Like the water's sitting on top doing a coat. That's a nice, easy little hack there. Oh, we want that smoothness all the way up. We want intensity down. You got some mask settings for dot fall off, noise intensity. So that will sort of keep upward faces wet and sides of things drier. Remember, our grass has its normals all pointing up, so it's going to get uniformly wet. Frost settings, we looked at this in the other example. We can turn this on though. We've got some frost creeping in on the grass, very cool. Subsurface settings, here we can see if we look, oh, the stupid camera being so slow. I don't know what the deal is, but if we get down here and we look back towards the sun, you can see this is brighter. I can crank this up. And then as we turn this way, it won't be as strong, right? Compare here to there. And I know I looked at this more in one of the other ones, but you get the idea. And you can control how the light wrap works in relation to that and in relation to all the other stuff and the fall off and everything. And this is currently set to simple mode. There's a more expensive model that takes shadows and stuff into account. But like you could definitely run that on that simple setting that I have it turned on here with just a height mask. Because we don't really want the bottom to get subsurface because it's hard to get behind it. It wouldn't be catching as much light and everything. It does really make a difference, right? So you maybe want to run simple for like all your background stuff. I would maybe not run it on the grass. This is pretty tall grass, so I've got it turned on just to kind of show it off as an existing thing. And then for like a hero tree that's like right on the footpath or whatever, go for the complex model that cares about shadows and you have a transmission map for and all that stuff. That'd be a good way to do it. And then saturation settings, this is really here so that you can dial in your different assets from different packs or sources or whatever and kind of get everything feeling nice and cohesive. You could also get away with like avoiding a post proc by doing this because literally one math instruction to grayscale your stuff. But like let's say we have these bushes in the background and we're like, oh, our grass is not quite saturated enough to match. You could just come in here and just dial that in where they feel like they fit together. And you can control how much the saturation is applied to the emission and to the albedo, right? So if I put these both at 1 and then I turn this down, you'll see now it's all the way gray. Whereas when I take this out, there's still a lot of green in here, and that's because this subsurface color is still pretty green, right? So that's still getting mixed in there. But if we want to desaturate everything, we can do that kind of thing. All right, so we'll set that back to 1. And then the last little piece is debug settings. So you can preview vertex color if you've got vertex color baked in to help drive different aspects of your wind or whatever. That information you can preview there, and you've got some options for how you want to see the alpha. And then it tells you all the keywords that you currently have active, right? So that's that. Let's go take a look real quick at the Deluxe Frost setup. All right, so if we look here now, we've got MicroVerse spawned. These are just prefabs currently. As you can see, they're all just chilling here. They all have this maskable component added to them. This will get some cute little icon at some point here in the near future. Let's see, we have an ambience area. This was just so I could sanity check that everything was working. And we have this material mask area now. This is the new component. I think this will just live in the Deluxe shader. I think this will just be free as a MicroVerse extension that comes with the Deluxe shader, because there's no good way for it to work on just raw terrain. So what I'll show you now is it working on these prefabs, and then we'll look at, so we'll go into play mode as we crank this intensity up. Nothing's gonna happen, is that right? It's because I have frost turned off. Oh yeah. He has frost on, he has frost on. What about the tree? Very nice. Frost collection. Oh, this needs to be a 1. That's why. So now you can see we slide this in and out, and it gets everything. Cool. And then where'd our handles go? There we go. Let's make this range not so big. So we got a range of 5 now. I don't know why it always does the tree. I think the tree is getting static batched or something goofy. You see we move this around and only impact stuff within the radius of our mask area, which is cool, right? And so this is a normal MicroVerse mask. We can do range, we can do box, we can do spline, we can do SDF, and mask off our different objects, which is great. So we can roll through our scene and turn things frosty, which is great. And then control how much and all that. So I'll be working on fall off stuff for this still and getting this to pipe into Foliage Renderer as well. So this will be another way for you to do localized color parameters, localized frost stuff, whatever you want to do. And it will all drive through MaterialPropertyBlocks straight into the existing details that are already being drawn by Foliage Render. So they'll still all batch efficiently because we're using the property blocks to set these things. So that is getting very close. And I think the plan is to just ship. I don't think it makes sense to ship it on its own because there's no way to get to the individual property blocks on detail instances on terrain. So it's kind of got to go through FR in order to be able to do that. So I don't think it makes sense to decouple it. So it'll just be part of the Deluxe Shader package. But again, you can use it in any MicroVerse thing on stuff that's not tied to terrain, right? And you will need MicroVerse's masks in order to do the masking part. I'm not gonna dupe that code. That seems silly. And let's face it, we almost all who are doing these terrain things have all the things. We have all the things turned on. All right, this video is getting long, but that gives you a sense of where we're at. So I'm wrapping up mask stuff. I'm touching up interactivity and perspective and vertex wind on the shader. And then I think we will be live very soon. You'll be able to pick this up direct while we wait for the Unity Asset Store to process. And then we'll go from there. But any questions or thoughts, let me know. You know, it's really important to me that the solutions for these things make sense and are modular, because I hate doing stuff more than once. And you guys are used to these big lead boxes that do a whole bunch of goofy bell and whistle things very uniquely, as opposed to simple systems that you can use over and over in lots of places that are efficient and repeatable. And that is the way that I like to work, because it's just better and it makes more sense. So, right, in the case of stuff like frostable regions, that's not the shader's job. The shader's job is to draw the pixel. You know what I mean? And so this sort of thing is the right way to handle, like, hey, what we want to do is we want to override our material in a certain part of the map. Okay, right? Like what's the right way to do that? So this is a move in that direction that lets us get a lot of that functionality very efficiently, very repeatably, non-destructively, um, and modular. We can use this pattern with any shader. We can use this pattern with any tool. We can use this pattern for microsplat and the FR Deluxe shader simultaneously, right? To do ground wetness and foliage wetness all at the same time. So this is, this is just a better thing. And they'll be connected because they'll be in the same package, but they aren't really the same tool, if that makes sense. Um, so there you go. Any questions or concerns, as always, hit me up in the Discord. Thanks, guys.